Prior to transition, I remember spending my nights learning how to program, but also learning how to navigate what there was of an internet at that point, and found myself drawn to IRC channels, lesbian IRC channels. And I found myself being comfortable in a role as a woman, and took on that role and lived it for several years as fantasy, as in, oh, if this could be real. And it was a reaction to my more mundane life, which I seemed to spend inordinate amounts of time trying to figure out a good way to off myself. I was on the verge of patching up the garage and spending some quality time with the engine running in a car when, I don't know exactly what happened, but I was online one night and somebody I'd been interacting with had come out as trans, and it was like a scary, long, frozen shut door opened in the recesses of my mind, and what washed out was this warm, oh, I'm trans. And instead of the scary North Atlantic waves I expected, it was more like a place of peace, like a warm coral atoll. You know, the way you'd picture it in the movies. You know, sunny, a little bit of surf, you know. It opened hope for me. I had figured that I would be dead within 2 years at that point. And suddenly there was something that might be worth living for. So the first person I came out to was around Christmas '95. I recall it was an early snowfall, and this is up in Chicago, so that would be around Christmas. I came out to my ex, who immediately said I wanted a divorce. And spent the next 2 years cursing at me. I mean, physically, loudly, literally cursing at me, essentially continuously. If I was in the house and she was awake, I was being cursed at. To the point that, you know, I preferred to sleep on a sofa rather than in the bed we'd shared for, gosh, nearly 20 years at that point. The kids, of course, were in disarray, and I just wasn't there enough to settle them between jobs. I was working multiple jobs. But things did settle down, and by '97 I was moved out, and she was still, you know, screaming at me at any and all opportunities, but those opportunities were fewer and less, farther between. But then I met this girl online, and she was down here in Texas, and we wound up arranging things so that we could wind up together. And so the end of '97, I moved down to San Marcos, and she moved in after Christmas, and we were together for several years. And I put a lot of myself into the relationship, was using the relationship for a lot of my self-definition, which wasn't fair to her, and certainly worked out poorly after she broke up with me. It sent me into the doldrums. I wound up losing my job, and the next few years were just struggling to find enough work to feed myself or shelter myself. Worked for 7-Eleven for a little bit, worked for Dell for a few months, and wound up at Apple, where I still am. But I spent 5 or 6 years basically just on my own. I phrase it as turtled, because like a turtle, I pulled in my head, I pulled in my limbs, and I sat there. And thought about why relationships had failed, and how to not have that happen again. Coming back out from the turtling, I met a different crew of people, much younger. I was in my 50s, and they were all in their late 20s, and anywhere in their 20s into their early 30s. And it was a friendlier crowd. I still didn't wind up dating anyone, but then again, I haven't been so invested in a partner making me realer or making me who I am, and just working on being myself. I found Austin as a whole to be a lot friendlier than Chicago. I can remember one day driving home from my last job in Chicago and realizing as I drove down this street that I'd driven down any number of times over the previous decades. Realizing just how much Chicago had ceased to be my home, how it was time to get away, how Chicago, from being a home city to me, had become a hostile place. And for the most part in Austin, I've never felt that. Even in San Marcos, granted, I didn't go out very much in San Marcos. But I remember getting pulled over for a traffic violation one morning, and even the cop was very polite and didn't give me a ticket, which I appreciated. I've only had a couple of even getting called names incidents in Austin. I'm pretty much just secure in who I am at this point. I know people in town. I have friends I can reach out to and stuff, but very much I find myself just comfortable being myself.